And while the country celebrates the 2024 Matric results, Parliament has joined the country in congratulating the class of 2024 for their Matric results. The Portfolio Committee on Basic Education says the results are a reflection of an improvement in the basic education sector. The Matric class of 2024 has achieved an overall pass rate of 87.3%, making it the highest Matric pass rate in the history of South Africa. Meanwhile, there are concerns about an unprecedented higher education crisis with over 337,000 matriculants qualifying for their bachelor's studies, but only 200,000 first-year places actually available across its 26 public universities. Now, the future of the nation's youth hangs in the balance. Some institutions like Rosebank College have called for the recognition criteria for private higher education institutions in South Africa to also help alleviate supply as well as demand. And to take this discussion further, let's now welcome Dr. Meyer, who is the Managing Director for Rosebank College and is also a serving member of the South African Qualifications Authority Board, or SAQA. Doctor, thank you so much for your time. So good to have you with us today as we now really get down to the back-to-school matters. So recently, you and I had a discussion about the challenge presented by the few spaces that are actually available to take in new varsity students. And we emphasize the need for the wider promotion as well as recognition of private colleges as a viable, honorable alternative to further one's studies.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Certainly, when we speak about the 337,000 students that have matriculated and that there's only 202,000 spaces, we must remember that these are bachelor's passes. So it excludes also the diploma graduates and the higher certificate graduates that also need to enter higher education. And that means that the real demand is well over 500,000 for students that need to enter higher education. Now, important thing is that there are other things that students can do, and obviously they can go to TVET colleges, they can go to private higher education providers, but importantly, once the regulations are released, and we hope this will be done early in the new year, because currently the minister needs to promulgate this, and this means that private higher education institutions are not allowed to call themselves universities. And we see that the new regulations will have university colleges, higher education colleges, and both public and private universities. And that will make it much easier for students that want that university title for where they have studied.
And speaking of those titles, Doctor, I mean, private higher education institutions do actually play a pivotal role in higher learning. But I think there is this superior narrative that if you don't study at the country's traditional universities, you are somehow not on the same level, even by qualifications, on the same discipline. Yet this couldn't be further from the truth. You sit on the SAQA board, but how do we then change this mindset? Maybe you can also tell us about some of the qualifications that have been obtained via these private institutions.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So both public and private higher education institutions have to go through the same process to have their qualifications accredited. They have to have the same level of qualified staff that present these qualifications. And, you know, although we've had some challenges in the sector, by and large, the private higher education sector offers a very good alternative. We still know that with our historically disadvantaged institutions, that there is still this innate prejudice that exists where employers prefer to only employ from particular universities. But we see that there are institutions like Vega, Varsity College, Rosebank, several other institutions that where employers now have a preference for those particular students in particular fields because it's smaller classes, well-directed and affordable. I think there's also a misnomer that private higher education is a lot more expensive, like we see with schools. But in fact, there is a price range that often is much more affordable than the public higher education institutions.
And I was going to go into those benefits of going this route, Doctor, but let's start here first. Then let's explore some study options or opportunities that are available, for example, at Rosebank colleges. And do your courses then comply and are in line with the national syllabus for the different disciplines?
Absolutely. So all qualifications need to be registered with the South African Qualifications Authority. All providers need to be registered and programs need to be accredited with the Council on Higher Education for both public and private institutions. And public institutions are deemed accredited because they are public, and the statute sets that out. Now, the Department of Higher Education and Training has a register of private providers, and those qualifications that come from those providers, and they are listed. And it's very simple for a parent or a student to go onto the Department of Higher Education and Training's website, or the South African Qualifications Authority's website, or the Council on Higher Education, and verify that there are no issues with a particular provider. Because the last thing we want is for students to enroll with fly-by-nights or providers that aren't properly and adequately capacitated to offer particular programs. The long and the short of it doesn't matter if you studied at a public or a private institution. If you do a BCom, it's exactly the same. If you do an LLB, a law degree, it's exactly the same. The same norms and standards specified by the Council on Higher Education, by SAQA and the department need to be complied with. And all of these institutions have very robust quality assurance frameworks, and the Department of Higher Education and Training under Dr. Shahida Isak has an inspectorate directorate, and they certainly make sure that when problems are identified, that they are preemptively dealt with.
And of course, demand, Doctor, has led to the influx of those illegal or fly-by-night higher learning institutions. But let's talk about the benefits now as we wind down our discussion. There are many benefits to going to study this route, Doctor. Affordability, as you stated earlier on, being at the top of it, as well as accessibility. You can even go on distance learning, being at the top of those.
Absolutely. And for students that want to be in a particular area, there are often campuses that are not hosted by traditional public universities, where private providers have opened campuses, so there's no cost for accommodation, etc., that needs to be paid. And these often the programs are endorsed by professional bodies, so also something to look out for. And smaller classes and excellent provision certainly is where people want to study and what they want to see in programs. So a wide variety of options open, and we must remember, it's for some students, not everybody wants to do higher education. For some students, they want to do vocational programs like plumbing and being electricians. Those occupations also earn high salaries. So keep an open mind and really weigh up all the options of what is available to you.